What about hot
Uh,
coals?
yeah, no, that's not.
This is Faith and, a Christian podcast exploring faith in real life with young people.
Welcome to Faith and, the Christian podcast talking about faith with young people. We have today Andy.
Hello.
And we have the lovely Corey. Corey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Corey. I'm 21 on June the 15th, if anyone wants to get me anything. And I work for a local church. I'm the apprentice youth pastor.
Great. And what is the best thing so far about lockdown?
So I've just been plowing through box sets. It's been, it's been amazing.
Yeah, so what's the best thing you've watched so far?
I'm watching The Last Dance. I'm halfway through that, and that is very interesting.
That's on Netflix, isn't it, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen some people talk about that and say it's quite good. So, Corey, do you watch much YouTube at all?
I do. The amount of things that you think, oh, this doesn't need a video, but then you watch it anyways is a bit unreal.
So what kind of things do you find yourself watching?
A lot of how stuff's made. A lot of that. A lot of, I never knew that I wanted to know how, cheese strings were made until I watched it. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I needed in my life.
But that sort of goes back to what was said last week, and YouTube being that sort of place where you go to just waste time. So why do you think you watch them, Corey? Is it just for mindless entertainment?
I think it particularly at the minute, it's that, we that social interact. Like, I'm a very extroverted person. This lockdown has been quite difficult because I've not had people all around me all the time. Which has been positive in some sense, but it's also been, quite hard. So for me, I go to watch that because it's like, it reminds me of what I'm missing. It gives me that sense of like, oh, look, there's people and it's funny and it's, banter in it. And it's just that thing of like, I can't wait to get back to this with my friends, and I can't wait to be able to, so it fills that void, I guess, for me at the minute of, I need people around me. I need that social interaction. I need that, when we are all stuck in isolation. So, I mean, I could probably spend more effort and more time actually organising something with my friends. But it's easier just to type in youtube.com and go watch something. Do you know what I mean? It's easier, isn't it?
So you said earlier you work for the church. You're an apprentice youth pastor.
Yes.
So obviously God is very central to your life.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, and this is sort of what we want to touch on today, do you think that God cares and affects what you watch?
As Christians, as I'm someone of faith, my aim and my goal is to be, we're all striving to be like Jesus, because Jesus was the perfect example of a human being. He lived on earth and he showed everyone how to live, and actually, obviously back in the day, Jesus didn't have Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon Prime, or he didn't have all that stuff, but Jesus was careful of what he did and what he watched. And I think we've got to be so careful, because whether people like it or not, subconsciously we're being affected by what we watch.
You're saying that you're trying to be like Jesus, so that probably means that you're not going to watch some stuff and you're not going to listen to some things. Do you find those decisions easy to make, and where do you draw those lines?
I think it's very hard to make those decisions, particularly, so for example, a big thing, Game of Thrones, never watched it, which was really hard to when all my, I had a lot of friends who were, and it was the talk of everyone, especially when season 8 came out, the last one. Everyone talked about it, and it was so hard for me to be a part of that, and to, oh yeah, I've never seen it. Do you know what I mean? It's that difficulty of knowing actually to pursue my faith, to pursue what I think is right. I need to not watch this thing that it seems to be everywhere. And it tends to be like stuff that I see is, okay, that I don't think that's very good, and I don't think it's not going to keep a positive influence in my life. I don't think watching that, but then that tends to be the thing that blows up. Another example, Love Island. That's something I personally chose not to watch because, to be honest, I just found it awful. Like, beyond all things, I thought immorally it was wrong. But then, obviously, that became massive and huge. And, I get why people do want to watch it. I understand why people would find that entertaining. But for me, it's that choosing to say, actually, I'm going to put my faith, I'm going to put the thing that that I'm living for above watching a season of, 10 young people go and do silly things on an island. Do you know what I mean?
But do you think that's a recent decision, or as you were growing up? I mean, I have no idea when season 8 came out of Games of Thrones, but as you were growing up as a young person, do you think it was easy for you to make those choices, or was there more actually pull by your friends, pull to be part of the in crowd and things like this?
Well, I think a lot of things, for example, a lot of things were taken out of my hand, which at the time I hated. So, for example, Call of Duty when I grew up was massive, absolutely huge. And, there was every one of my friends played it. FIFA was, when the new Call of Duty came out, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, that was the big one when I was a kid. Modern Warfare came out, no one played FIFA anymore, and everyone was on this. And I was just a bit like, because my parents said, no, you're not allowed to play it because of the age rating and because of the things that are in it and it's graphic and whatever, which I understood. But I'm like, all my friends are playing it, and as you as parents, you can understand why that you won't want to watch it, and apparently all my friends are playing it isn't a justifiable excuse. So it's just that thing of like, sometimes it was taken out of my hands. But then when I came up, because I'm 21 in a month, so I've only been, be able to watch everything for a couple of years now. And even when I got to 18, and there was still things I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to watch that. I don't want, legally I can watch whatever I want, but it's choosing to say, actually, is this program going to benefit me?
Yeah,
probably not. And if that was the reason I came to, then that was my answer to, actually, no matter how important it is or how socially or culturally accepted this thing is, I still need to stand my ground in that, and I need to, actually, that's not a positive influence, and I need to help people see my perspective. Don't have to force them to see it, and don't have to be like, I wasn't going around and going, yeah, all you who are watching this program, I'm not about that. So that wasn't what I was like. But I was like, if someone asked me about it, I'd go, oh no, I don't watch that.
Yeah.
Then that opens a conversation where you go, actually, this is why. And a lot of people, when I explained my reason and explained, the reason why, were very understanding and understood my perspective. So yeah, I think you can socially live and be accepted without having to play all the games or watch all the series or whatever it is. I just think you just need to understand why and what is it, and look at more than just, oh, there's a dragon on the screen. Do you know what I mean? There's more than what it seems. There's always references to things, and always a lot more behind it than just a film or just a series. So yeah.
I suppose one of the big fears for young people is that we're going to say to them, you can only live in the Christian bubble. So if you go on YouTube, you can only watch, sermons. You can only listen to Christian music. You can only listen to Christian rap artists. Or if you go on Netflix, you can only watch whatever there is in the Disney or the family section, or if and I think
they're good sections though. The Disney and family sections are strong.
I'd be happy.
But I think there are some young people, and like Sam said last week, he'd never thought about how God cared about what he watched or what he didn't. And I think there are many young people who are scared and going, well, actually, I don't want to watch just Christian movies. I don't want to watch just sermons. I don't want to live in that, And when God says we're called to live in the world, but not be of the world.
Yes. Yeah, really good.
I think that for me is the key.
Yeah.
But I think it's a process, and I think it's a very difficult one. It sounds like you've come to that over time. It wasn't like when you were 12, it was, that's it, I believe this, and so that's it.
Yeah. So it's been a long journey, I think, for me as well. So there are lots of things you need to be careful of, because I have lots of friends, and I've got lots of people that I've discussed this with, just through my work and just through friends, and it's looking at what you can handle, and it's looking at what will. So, for example, so take something easy like alcohol. Yeah, I have a friend of mine that he will have one and that's it because he can't do any more. And I've got another friend of mine that will watch only a certain amount of a TV program, and if he sees it's like he takes 20 minutes, and if there's anything in the first 20 minutes where he goes, actually that is not what I want to see, he might really enjoy the blurb and he might love it, but or whatever the synopsis, whatever you call the bit at the start of a Netflix film, but he will watch that and he will go, in the first 20 minutes, if there's something in here that I disagree with or that I feel will not help me better myself as a person, then I won't watch it. And it's about learning, okay, what is it that I can handle, what is it I can deal with, what is it that because again, we're not asking everyone to be prunes and just to not play anything, not watch anything, just sit on the because let's be real, you can't do that in society. There is no way that you can go through life ignoring everything, because that will not help you function as a human being. And you just can't do it. So it's just about learning what it is that you can handle, what is it that you can see. For example, I won't watch any kind of horror film. No horror film, even if it's a TV show, I won't watch it. Because I know as a person, I get scared so much. Yeah, can't do it, right? Me and a friend of mine, they're organising a group trip to see It, the one about the clown in it. Me and my friend went and watched, I think it was like some Muppets film or something. We were like, no, we're not doing that, because me and him both knew that will not help us at all. And we're both really scared. So you just have to learn about you and learn about what it is you are, what you're striving for and what you're trying to,
Yeah.
So how would you both encourage young people that or the people who are listening to start that process, to start thinking about what God thinks and how they can make those decisions of what is good for their relationship with God?
I think I would say, to begin with, is learn what it's really saying. What is this trying to get across? It's about really looking deep into what the movies you're watching and everything that you're viewing with your eyes. Looking, what's it doing to my brain? What message is it sending him? What about yourself, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying ties in nicely with what Tab and Rebecca said last week, where for them, what they see eventually over time will be, sort of soaked into them like a sponge. So if they watch lots of programs full of hate and darkness, then actually they find that the world around them seems to be more hate-filled and darker. But I think for me, it is the question that sort of I posed at the end of the last one, is that would you watch what you watch if Jesus was next to you?
Good question.
And that I think is the starting point. It's an easy question to ask yourself. I'm reminded of the bracelets from the 90s, which sure far of you are too young to remember, which used to say WWJD, which stood for What Would Jesus Do? But it is that question of what would Jesus watch? What would Jesus listen to? Yeah. And if he was sat next to you on the sofa, would you put Game of Thrones on?
Good, yeah.
Knowing what is in there, would you put Sidemen on? Would you put Beta Squad, knowing the language that they use, knowing the content that they produce?
Yeah.
Would you want Jesus to see that bit?
People forget that they're actors.
Yeah.
I think that's what I noticed the most. People forget the people that we're watching, the characters that we're watching, no matter how true story it could be, they're still acting. They're not, so these people that we see is someone else's representation of this character, of what, of their imagery. So I think it's also really important to, see that we're not actors. We're human beings. We are real people. We're interacting with real people. And I think that this is the most dangerous thing, that we can get to a point where we're acting as ourselves, we're acting as other people. And for me, when we look at the life of Jesus, all the way through his life, Jesus never acted like someone else. Jesus was who he was, and he knew in his heart who he was. And, even when Jesus got angry when he went to the temple, it's because he knew who he was, and he knew that he cannot stand for this. So he will throw tables and he will get upset because this is not what is meant to be here. So I think my biggest thing to all young people everywhere is just to find out who you are, rather than looking at what else is there, rather than looking at all these characters and inspiring to be all these, these fake Instagram people or whatever it is. On social media, everyone's lives look glamorous, and I want to see the days where Kim Kardashian and Kanye West have to wake up because the baby's been sick and whatever. I want to see the days where that's the reality. Not the days when they're on the beach and they're all looking amazing and they've been sat there for 30 minutes because they've been trying to take the same photo and over again. Yeah. And it's just, we need to get past this facade, this attitude of these things that we see is reality, because it's not. These actors we're watching, it's all fake. It's all people pretending. And so I think once we see that, and we see the pretending, we see the fakery, that allows us to actually look at ourselves and go, well, what are we faking things? Are we able to sit here and go, this is who I am, these are my morals, this is what I believe? Or are we just still pretending to be other people? And
that ties in really well with what we've been looking at over these last few episodes, because we've talked about identity and where we find identity. Particularly young people who are looking at social media and Instagram and Facebook, and they see all these pictures and they go, that's what I want to be. And it's like Lexi said, they're all highlight reels.
Yes.
And it's that highlight reel thing that we all aspire to have. And I think young people get sucked into that. Yeah, and I think young people do aspire to see and can't see through those.
Yeah.
So I think you are right. It is that idea of find out who you are.
Yeah.
Work out your identity, work out what your principles are, and then let what you watch line up to those things.
Yeah, I think that's really good. But that's a really hard thing to do. That's hard for adults as well as young people. So how do we start to look at doing that? How do we think about our morals and what we believe in? Where do we go for that information?
So for me, that's been a question that I'm still dealing with. And that's something that you're not going to wake up one morning and God or someone is just going to drop a present on your door and goes, there's who you are. This is everything about you. Because we change and we evolve and we, for example, I love accents. I really love accents. And if you live in a place for a certain amount of time, you start to talk in the same accent as the people where you're living. And for me, that's something that describes how identity, how it can work is if you spend enough time with people who are, giving positive influence, who are telling you you're awesome, who are keep encouraging you, who are building you up, then that's what will be part of your identity. Your identity will be, allowing others to help, and you'll push others and you'll encourage others. And I think it's less of an idea of, okay, this is an identity, this is what it looks like. It's, okay, well, what is it about you that makes you different?
And I think for me, it goes back to that question of being authentic.
Yes, really
being who you are. So, that was what really Lexi spoke about on episode 3 of Faith, and she spoke a lot about this idea of being authentic. And you touched on it today about you wanting to see those pictures of Kanye West and Kim with the baby vomiting down the back.
Oh yeah.
Because that's authentic. Yeah, and that's the reality. But I think
definitely.
For young people, it's that idea of actually finding people who are authentic around you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to agree with everything they want or they agree with.
Yeah, definitely.
But at least if they're real, you'll probably listen to them.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the key. It's working out those who are around you who are there really for you, to help you, to build you up, being real. And remembering that all the old people, to use that phrase, over the age of your age, because if you're 14, you think a 16-year-olds are old. If you're 12, you think a 14-year-old's old. And if you're 20, you think a 41-year-old man's old.
Yeah, I do.
But it's remembering that those people have been on that journey before.
Yeah, absolutely. We were reading Jonah earlier this week, and that kind of authenticity got me during that as well. That God tells Jonah to go somewhere. He goes, no, not going to. And because of that, he gets chucked into the sea, swallowed up by a big fish, and then 3 days later vomited onto dry land. Love that line of the Bible, vomited onto dry land. And then he runs away again, like, he is who he is, and he gets there eventually and all of this sort of thing, and God still uses him. And I think that's the key, that God still uses him. And you see that throughout the Bible. All these characters, all these people who you look at and they're quite rubbish. We've talked about the disciples on previous episodes, but through the Old Testament as well, you know, all these people with so many different flaws, but actually they start to learn who they are, they start to learn who God is. They put that faith, that trust, that number one spot to God, and he can use them. And so even if we're still on this journey of identity, if we're still working out what we should and shouldn't be watching, whether we're watching the wrong things and feel a bit guilty about it, God is still in that, and we can still have those conversations with other people and with God and move forward. And like you said, change and develop and go on that journey.
Excellent. Well, I reckon that is some awesome advice for us to end today's podcast on. We want to say thank you, Corey, for coming on and being a guest today. We've really enjoyed chatting to you about this. So we will see you next time round.